the subject of the prequels has been a hot button subject for, geez, going on close 26 years. Damn. And the one constant that I do see when people do talk about the prequels is that Attack of the Clones is their least favorite of the prequels. And obviously everyone has their own gripes and complaints and the writing and the CGI and all that good stuff. But we really kind of don't acknowledge that, at least to me, Attack of the Clones should have been the easiest home run, but was the biggest fumble by George Lucas. Introducing the clones, and we get to see more of the Jedi Council and of the Jedi in general, developing the brotherhood between Anakin and Obi-Wan, and obviously them butting heads to Anakin and Padme's relationship. And that is the one that I want to focus on today. Now, yes, I understand that George wanted to echo Leia, that they wanted to show where Leia got her defiance and her sass and her all the good stuff that makes Leia Leia from Padme. Obviously, with Leia not wanting to give in to her feelings for Han Solo because he's a smuggler, he's an outlaw, he's a scumbag, he's a scoundrel. He is the complete opposite of her. But realistically, to me, in my opinion, that is a story that is so good and it is written so well that it only worked to me for Leia. Now, don't get it twisted. I love that Padme's feisty. I love that you can see that Leia got her defiant attitude from Padme and from Anakin. I love how they showcase that. I love how George wrote that with everything other than the relationship between Anakin and Padme. How I feel it should have gone down is that they wanted to be together. And I know everyone will say, oh, they do that in so many other shows and Romeo and Juliet, but no, like, look at it. Anakin and Padme should want to be together, should be fighting to be together. But obviously their lives are pulling them apart. We get to root for Anakin and Padme. We want them to be together, only for it to end the way it does in Revenge of the Sith. Because again, recently watching Attack of the Clones, I'm sitting here and I'm watching the order things are written and I'm kind of like, what do Anakin and Padme have that's so exclusive to them that makes Anakin and Padme other than across the stars? Why do we root for them to be together? Why do we want to see them defy who they are and defy what they stand for and be together? We don't really get that, at least not to me. Now, yes, I wouldn't even be here to this day making this video if it hadn't been for George Lucas. All the props of George Lucas. Literally, my life is obsessing about Star Wars. The biggest thing to me with Anakin and Padme, though, is just how the scenes were written. It wasn't everything about Anakin and Padme, but if you really look at the events of how things went down with Anakin and Padme and how they were written in the order they were written, it kind of makes no sense. Let's kind of look at the order of how things went down, and I'll give my opinions as we go along. Starting with the first one, Anakin and Padme's reunion on Coruscant. Now, obviously, first time Anakin is really seeing a woman other that isn't a Padawan, that isn't someone in the Jedi Council. For the first time in 10 years, he's seeing a friend. So obviously, he's going to fumble. He's going to be awkward. I like that George wrote it for Anakin and Padme's interaction to be awkward. You can literally see after Anakin tries to flirt with Padme by saying she's grown more beautiful, Obi-Wan's like, this motherfucker, what is he doing?
Grown more beautiful, I mean. Well, for a senator, I mean.
And that I love, because obviously, yes, he's going to strike out, and Padme being Padme has to keep it professional, and she can kind of chuckle and be like, Anakin's doofy, whatever. You'll always be that little boy I knew on Tatooine. That's good. I loved that interaction. Obviously, I'm not going to go beat by beat every little line of dialogue between Anakin and Padme. We'd be here forever. That's not what this is about. It's kind of just looking at the scenes of them together and saying they are so out of order. Biggest and hardest thing to understand about this is Anakin and Padme get what they want. They are together for the whole movie after this. They are together, legitimately. And nothing really happens in a way of building the relationship. Let's continue going forward. We have when Anakin and Padme are in her apartment packing her bags, getting ready for her to go, and she's obviously annoyed. She doesn't want to go away. And Anakin says, sometimes we must put aside our feelings and do what is requested of us. And Padme's like, Anakin, you've grown up. And then he starts complaining about Obi-Wan, blah, 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 blah. But right then and there is kind of where we should get some more building behind Anakin and Padme, where Anakin is like, I get it. I get it. Doing what we're told, we don't want to do it, blah, 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 blah. But instead, we get that Anakin is creeping on Padme, and she says, don't look at me like that. He says, why not? She says, as we all know, it makes me uncomfortable. And in the most fedora wearing way, Anakin says, sorry, milady.
Sorry, milady.
Now, again, that is just an awkward interaction because Padme is clearly uncomfortable with it. There is nothing that lets us know that she's like, stop, man, you're cute, whatever. No, like, she's pissed off and she's uncomfortable. Like, that's the next scene. And here is where we get to the refugee ship, where they're having their talk about being encouraged to love and all that stuff. The scene after that is when they're walking up to the palace and they are joking, having a good time. That is the stuff you love to see, where Anakin says, we have R2 with us, which is then brought to a halt to me when they're in the palace and Sio Bibble asks Anakin his opinion on the situation, calling him a Jedi Master. And instead of Padme hyping up the guy that she likes, supporting Anakin, because let's rewind a little bit, most people forget that had it not been for Anakin speaking up, this whole thing wouldn't be in place. Because Anakin, when they have that reunion on Coruscant, let's not forget, Anakin says, we will try to find out who's killing you, Padme, or who's trying to kill you, Padme. And Obi-Wan says, we will not exceed our mandate.
We will find out who's trying to kill you, Padme. I promise you.
We will not exceed our mandate, my young Padawan learner.
We will do exactly as the council instructs us. Obi-Wan's on the council. Obi-Wan's a master. And what do? They send Obi-Wan to freaking Camino. And obviously, yes, where Anakin says that this is a job for security, not Jedi, and then he gets put on security detail. But Anakin has some insight as to what's going on. It makes no sense to me for her to jump in and say, well, Anakin's not a master. He's still a Padawan learner. She should be encouraging, supporting this dude. That made little to no sense to me why they have that interaction and they have that bicker back and forth and they're clearly sour at each other. But the thing that makes my head spin even more is directly after that scene, thanks to George Lucas deleting a scene where Anakin goes home with Padme and he meets her family and talks with her dad. We get a little bit more of, seeing Padme's side of life. No, that scene gets cut out, and instantly after they bicker on feed, they then cut to them on the balcony where they kiss. What? They just bicker, have a problem, and now they are hanging out on the balcony. Anakin is rubbing her shoulder, looking her up and down, and then they kiss. But didn't Padme just say the way he was looking at her made her uncomfortable? Didn't they just bicker in front of a group of people? Now they're kissing. Okay, George. All right. So they kiss. They have their kiss, but then, as we all know, Padme pulls away and says, I shouldn't have done that. Anakin says, I'm sorry. They look out, and I can only imagine after that scene went that Padme was the one to walk off and Anakin still hung out there kind of thinking, what did I just do? I just fumbled again. And obviously, yes, it's because Padme was like, he's a Jedi, I'm a senator, we can't do this, all that stuff. I'll get to that in a little bit. But again, most people would think that if you kiss someone and they felt that they shouldn't have done it and they walk off, it is going to make things so awkward between the two of you the rest of the time you're together. Not for George Lucas, because after Padme just said she shouldn't have kissed him, she is then having a meadow picnic with him. Now, I love this scene. I love the music. I love the setting. I love the set. I love the CGI. I love it all. The music, unmatched. the costumes, the vibrance, everything. But it makes no sense to be here after Padme just said she shouldn't have kissed him, when this scene ends with her straddling my guy, laughing in a very romantic way. This whole scene is the epitome of romance, of young love. This scene should not be here. It makes no sense at this point. It's a great scene, but there was nothing that built up to this. Padme just said she shouldn't have kissed Anakin, that things shouldn't have gone as far as they did. Now she's on top of him. George. Okay, so then the next scene after this between the two of them is that little dinner date that they have where Anakin floats the pear over to her. That's a little cutesy. They talk about aggressive negotiations. The scene ends there, right? It is then brought to an abrupt halt. All that cutesiness is brought to another abrupt halt when they have the infamous fireplace scene. Now, I have a lot of feelings on this. I'm going to try to go over this as fast as I can. They basically, well, more so, Padme says that we can't do this. And Anakin says, listen to me, Padme. You know, anything is possible. We can do this. And Padme says, no, you listen. I'm a senator. You're a Jedi. We can't do this. Two completely different worlds. And Anakin says, we could keep it a secret. And she says, could you do that, Anakin? Could you keep it a secret? And Anakin says, no, it would destroy us. You know, all that good stuff. Keep in mind, up until this point, they have not even verbally confirmed that they have feelings for each other. Padme pulled away from the kiss. Again, this scene here is where they should acknowledge their feelings, where Padme should acknowledge her feelings for Anakin, where they should both mutually agree, not begrudgingly, but mutually agree. Excuse me, tongue-tied, this helmet. It's getting a little hot in here. But they should both agree, hey, we have feelings for each other. Padme should agree and acknowledge that she has feelings for him, but they can't. That they are just in two different worlds and that those worlds would not allow them to be together. Now, cutting through the weeds, sallying forth. Yes, after that, Anakin has his nightmare. They head to Tatooine. All that's fine and dandy. I'm not going to cover all that because I thought it was fine as it played out. But this is where I want to talk about reordering these scenes, right? They land on Naboo, and as it happens, as it plays out, they have the meeting in the palace. And as I said before, Padme should support Anakin because she will be that support. When he goes to her in episode 3 and constantly is like, the council doesn't listen, the council doesn't know, she should know. She has supported him. Why? That still irks me to this day. But Padme would support Anakin there. Now here is where we get into the reordering. Keep the scene where Padme goes home and we get to meet Padme's family and her sister, and that scene where she goes, Anakin's not my boyfriend. Anakin's out with her dad after dinner, and you see Padme and Padme's mom and her having a discussion about Anakin and about her feelings. Right there is where they would show that, yes, Padme has feelings for him, but she can't act on him because their worlds are just too different. You see where her mindset is right then and there. The next scene that I would put after that would, in fact, be the scene with the little dinner date where Anakin floats the pear to her and they have their cutesy little thing, you know, talking a little bit more. They're joking. They're having fun. After that is where you put the meadow scene for the next day. You put the meadow scene. Their feelings have grown. They are now happy. They're two teenagers in love, frolicking around. And that, right after that, is where you put the kiss. Everything had built up to this kiss. We see how happy they are. We see that they want to be together. And it's sealed with the kiss. And that is where Padme pulls away and says, I shouldn't have done that. Because she shouldn't have let things get this far. She shouldn't have let herself let it go this far. With that tension, after Padme says she shouldn't have done that, obviously she would walk away, and it stewed upon the rest of the night. Just a little change to the next scene is, yes, the fireplace scene. Neither of them would be able to sleep after that. They're both thinking a whole bunch. And it shouldn't open on the scene where Anakin and Padme are just on the couch. I'll play the scene out. Hopefully I don't get hit with a strike. I'll play the scene out after the dinner or how that scene opens. And it's them. They just spawn on the couch. It should be Padme is sitting by the fireplace reading something or just kind of thinking, and Anakin comes in, and that's how they start talking about it, because they hadn't talked that whole time. Obviously it's going to be an awkward conversation because they just had such an amazing time from when they landed to now. Nothing happened. And then Padme pipes up and says, I know we both want this, but we can't. 2 different worlds, blah, 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 blah. Rearranging those scenes like that makes so much more sense to me. Again, don't get me wrong. These scenes, the way they were written, yes, the dialogue wasn't the strongest. Some things should have been different, but it would have told a better story had he just rearranged them. What do I know? I'm just a dude in a Mandalorian helmet on the internet. I'll see you in the next one, and until we meet again, friends.